What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 49 of the Yap Squad. I'm your host, Momo. Alongside me is my co-host, Mamba here.
Hello.
And today we are joined by a very special guest. He was a guest on the show Shark Tank. He is a well-known inventor and publisher. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Dr. Rob Yonover.
Yeah, how you doing? I'm Dr. Rob Yonover from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm a scientist and inventor. I surf big waves and fish rough water, so I was always on the edge of dying. So I invented some survival gear that the military uses now, and it's used worldwide. And I got to take it on Shark Tank, which was a trip.
Oh yeah.
but it was fun. I mean, it's an incredible journey, and I'm still doing it. I'm still surfing. I've been in Hawaii 40 years. I surf big waves and train. And still inventing, still thinking up weird ideas,
Yeah, we were looking you up, and we were like, "This guy is like jacked." Like, oh my god, you be in the gym and
Yeah,
stuff.
we saw you in your old pictures in the water.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I got some glam shots. Especially as you get older, you got to look back. But yeah, no, I eat fuel. I don't eat food. I eat good food and fuel and I work out hard. I don't want to die on the North Shore. 20, 30 feet of white water. Not white waves coming on your head. I've learned the only safe place is like 10 feet underwater. So now I do a couple mile paddle a day for workout when I'm not surfing. And I practice being 10 feet underwater 50 times in a row with one breath.
Oh my.
So I keep doing shit like that. So if I get into these bad situations, I won't say I laugh at it, but I'm definitely more relaxed when the shit's going down. So that's
Well, you get into that stress enough, eventually you start to, I'm here. I am again.
Exactly. A lot of it's mind over matter, but you got to have the matter too. You got to be prepared. I mean, I like doing things 1,000 times, so I'm totally comfortable. Yeah. Whether it's giving a pitch or surfing, whatever. Because the more uncomfortable you are, the more rare it is for you, the more you might panic. And I definitely don't want to panic.
I think that's one of my worst things. Is I tend to mentally panic. Like I'm composed on the outside in most situations. Never in a life or death situation though, but even just in social situations, I tend to mentally freak out for a second. And I'm even one of those people that are like super paranoid, I guess. So I'm like constantly thinking of every social interaction I could ever possibly have, so I have the right response to anything. And yet I still just fumble it every time.
Oh yeah. Me too. I fumbled my whole life, but I kept coming back. That's where you just got to laugh at yourself at some point.
Yeah.
I've done some ridiculous shit, especially when I was younger, and you just go, oh man, what an idiot. But sometimes you do such a bad thing, it's good. Unless you're not to hurt people, just socially.
To an extent.
When you look back on your Shark Tank episode, do you think about like what could I have done differently or anything along those lines?
A couple things. I mean, the thing you see is 7 minutes, and I was in there like an hour.
Right. Oh, really?
So you don't know, and it's totally real. It's like they don't know me, I don't know them, and I just walk out there, and then they say go. There's nothing like, oh, that sounded good, say that again. It's nothing like that. It's just like you and I are having a discussion for an hour. So during that hour, there was things that happened. It's 5 against 1. Mm-hmm. So that too. So I didn't have someone else sitting there that could save my ass if I start fumbling.
Oh yeah, I'd be intimidated.
I said, it was heavy, but I have a lot of experience speaking. I got my PhD working on volcanoes, so there's that experience. But the academic side of always having to defend your dissertation or just argue with people, and I was brought up in a family. All we did was argue. That's kind of like a sport. It wasn't mean, but it's just kind of, that's the way it is. So I've been arguing my whole life. So I'm ready. And the other thing is you go in equipped. I was ready and I knew. I tell people this all the time. If you know the most in that room, you should be confident.
Right.
And it wasn't even close. They didn't know what I was even talking about for a little while. It was hard to get across. Mark Cuban was smart. He got it immediately.
Yeah.
But some of the others, and they fell into the trap. I kind of hoped I used Mr. Wonderful to do the demo. They said, who do you want to use? And I said, well, I don't like the way he's kind of mean to people. And I knew he was short. So I said, okay, let him hand this. I'll hand him the streamer, unfurl it.
Yeah, make it look
and I wanted bigger. To look. I wanted to look down on his bald head and say, okay, asshole, for all the people you screwed up. So that was very gratifying. And then as he unfurled it down the hallway, I knew someone was going to make a joke because, it's lost at sea. And sure enough, Damon or someone said, God, get lost or don't come back. Because I kept saying, keep going. And they're going, keep going. So I got a bunch of good. And that kind of set it up a little. It made it a little more relaxed to have a couple of comic relief things. But there are definitely a couple of things I said that they didn't understand it. And I was really scrambling to say things. And I had said some numbers that I made a mistake in one of the numbers I said about the pricing and manufacturing, because I had just taken it over from my licensee. So I had started back into production on our own. Right. So anyway, it was a mistake and it worked out. But during it, I was like, and it was bothering me right then. I'm like, I got to say something. And then once I see them going out, I'm like, okay, this is ultimately, it's still a TV show. So they're all trying to sound smart and say smart on their way out. And for that reason, I'm out. That's okay. So, but I've never winked at a guy in my life. And Mark Cuban was flirting with me the whole time. So I just winked at him on the way out and he kind of freaked out. It was funny. I enjoyed that a lot.
That's funny. I thought you did great.
Thank you. Yeah, it was tough, but they didn't. The thing about it was, I'm used to talking, and then there's my science background. I'm used to talking to really, and military. I work with the military, so there's all these really powerful, well-versed people, and these were the sharks are cool. They made their money and all that, but they're not as smart as some of the people I've been hanging out with in the last 30 years. So it's like, and they don't know anything about what I'm talking about. Yeah. So it's almost like being in a kindergarten class. Just like I do outreach to all sorts of students, all ages. My favorite's kindergarten because they're the most creative. But it was the same. You got to, tell them simply how it works. And, the business side, I'm not really a business guy. I made a major mistake in the invention in itself, and I don't care. But as an inventor, I wanted to solve the problem. The problem is lost at sea. Your head's a little speck. They can't see you in the ocean or up in the mountains. They have flares, smoke signals, sea dye marker, all that shit goes away right away. I'm like, I want something permanent and something I could put away and then re-signal. And the streamer's like a long orange tail with spreader bars. So it's like a centipede and it's so simple. And it unfurls, you mark your position, and the military loved it. And they like the redeployable. So if the enemy's around, you can hide it, then go somewhere else and signal again. None of those other signals can do that. And the mistake I made was, it was a mistake and not a mistake. The original part of the mistake is solve the problem with the simplest materials available and make it foolproof. I live with salt water, fishing, surfing. It's wickedly abusive of your gear. So electronics fail, batteries fail, all that shit fails. So I wanted something that didn't break. It was just a simple piece of plastic. And it was great. And I know when I'm out on my boat and it's 6 to 8 foot seas and I'm 20 miles offshore, if my EPIRB, my electronic device doesn't work, and even if it does work, I turn it on and put a streamer out. I know the streamer is going to work because there's no batteries, chemicals, or electronics to fail. But the mistake I made was in business, it's not renewable. Right. So I sell it. I got one on my boat that's 30 years old. So that was dumb. Later I put lights on the fighter pilot version, has lights that have batteries that wear out. And the new ones have reflectors and chem lights, which only last 4 years. But still, it's still forever. Even if the chem lights are no good, you still have the streamer and the reflectors. So it's like, I still made a stupid business mistake because you want the recurring, buy one every year, buy one every 2 years. You buy one once, you're done. That's a bad model for business.
Well, how the military,
especially if it's only $100.
They got their own chem lights, and they got my brother's Coast Guard, and I was Army, and
oh really?
My
okay.
brother, he was on a cutter for a while, and I told him I was doing this, and he mentioned that I think they keep them in their cutters.
Well, the more the merrier, and the best part is some guys have used it in the military and a civilian diver here. And they came up to me after and thanked me. And that was worth all the money in the world. Forget the money. These guys, I looked in my eye and said, man, thanks for inventing that. And then I was trying to convey that to the sharks, and they just didn't get it. Yeah. That was the most shocking thing. I mean, they got all this money. How much money do you need?
Yeah.
Don't you want to do something good in the world? And they all took shit for it because after my little hour, the other three companies that were in my little hour segment were a wine sippy cup, so you could sip it and it won't spill over. It was a backpack that is hard to cut open. And the third thing was booty pants to make your ass look rounder and bigger for the ladies. Those things all got funded and mine didn't. I'm like, okay, well. So on the internet, all social media is like, I can't believe you didn't fund this life-saving idea, but you invested in booty pants and all these other things. So they took some grief and they had to like apologize. Well, we knew he was we couldn't help him. He was on his way. He's better in the military, all this. And that was fine. Yeah. But that was kind of fun. I like that because I was pissed at the time. I'm like, I can't believe you guys don't want to invest in this. Yeah. Save some lives. You know, with your pull, Mark Cuban, you start talking to people in Congress, military, even the media, the exposure, people start carrying them. More people are saved. But
that money is the key. The goal for you going in, I assume, was more to get them to help you with the contracts, right? Or what was the
the exposure, more exposure. Yeah, get the contracts. Yeah. Like twofold. One is get the media exposure, and also I'm a small company. If they infuse and I didn't ask for enough money either, but if they infuse $1 million and pulled a lot of strings, and we got lobbyists in DC working in the military and working in the public, and then the broad media getting it on CBS, NBC, CNN, all these places, you could get a snowball rolling. Instead, the tortoise and the hare, you guys remember that when you're kids?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm the ultimate tortoise, okay? I've been doing this. I thought of this invention almost 40 years ago, and I've been working it for 30, and I'm an old guy now. I'm going till I'm 100 because it's a nice small business, and it can get bigger and smaller depending on the contracts. And I tell them, business guys, everyone wants to hit the Shark Tank home run, get bought out, but do you really? Because if it gets big, all of a sudden you have all these money problems, you have management problems. They're going to buy you out and get rid of you. And for me, living in Hawaii, I didn't want to move to the mainland, no offense, just to go to 20 different trade shows. Exactly. So, but if they know you're trying to just get media play from Shark Tank, they won't even let you on the show.
Right.
And I genuinely wanted to make a deal. So as they started dropping out, I'm like, what a bummer. And then I'm like, but every day past that day, I felt better and better going, maybe this is better. I got to expose. All 5 sharks liked it on national TV. They had nothing but good things to say about it. The only problem they have is it's not going to make money fast enough. And that's fine. They're right. It's an incredible experience, incredible pressure. But, even surfing, that kind of helped me with that little event because that's a lot of pressure. I mean, 50 cameras, it's just everything. And I knew 9 million people were going to be watching, and you got to look at each shark before you start, like a moment of silence kind of thing. So they want to get facial reactions. That's the only thing they tell you before that free form starts. So it's like a boxing match, the weigh-in. And I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. Yeah, fuck you. I'm going to get you. I don't know if you can cuss. I was in my mind. I wasn't saying any of that. But, and even before you go in, they go, it's going to be really cold. It's really loud. But you go check the set out in between because they wanted to show me my stuff all set up so I make sure it's okay. And I go in there and, I'm nervous as hell. And I'm like, and right as I go in, I hear that song. I like big butts, but I can't get. And I go, this is perfect. I'm going to kick ass. I just thought that was like a sign, And Mark Cuban's got the little apron on. They're doing his makeup, and whatever his name is, Sir Mix-a-Lot's going. But I like big butts. I cannot stop, And I'm like, okay. And that's kind of one of my low-level theme songs from. Anyway, it was wild. So the whole thing was an incredible. It was a surreal experience, and I'm glad I did it. And the cool thing is, we all hang out together after. Not after. They formed like a private Facebook group of people that have been on the show, and we get together every year. It's really cool.
That's actually
that's
like
so
cool.
We saw that.
It is really cool.
How do you feel? Oh yeah, were you on the same? That was the same season as Scrub
No. But I got to meet him. You meet these guys, and just like when they meet me, they only know me from that show, from that 7 minutes. I know them from their 7 minutes, and it's pretty funny. We have all these, and we all kind of went through this process, which was really massive. It's hard to get into Harvard, they say, to get in Shark Tank. 1 in 40,000 applicants a year. That's your chances. And then it goes on for months with, you got to fill out forms, sign legal and send demo tapes, all that. It's just, so we kind of are, it's like a support group, if you will, a little. Yeah. And it's good. But then we also share little tricks. I learned a ton of those from those guys. I mean, if I had a marketable product that was to the masses, they all have stuff that's consumable, cupcakes, sponges, whatever the hell. And it's cool. They've got little niches, and they're all successful to some extent. So we all share how we do it. And then the last couple of years with TikTok and all this exploding social media, and that's, I always say I could be a TikTok legend if I wanted to be, but I don't really want to be in front of a camera all day talking smack, you know? And in fact, the guys, someone lifted my pitch from Shark Tank and put it on TikTok last year, and it got 15 million hits. I'm not even on TikTok. Someone said, "Hey man, you're going viral on TikTok." I'm like, "Well, I didn't have TikTok." I go to this link, and I said, "Oh my God, it's 1.2 million views," and they said, "No, you idiot, that's 1.2 million likes. That's 15 million." And then it was funny, like 2,000 comments, started reading these comments. My favorite one was this guy wrote, "Man, this guy, he made $1 million inventing a fruit roll-up," which was classic because that's what it looks like. This other guy goes, this guy went out with my mom. I'm a widower. So this guy, that was funny. And then, and the best one though, really the best one was a guy said, "This is the most confident guy I've ever seen on Shark Tank." And that
pretty accurate.
Really felt good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I mean, again, that juxtaposition of me being a seasoned pitcher, pitching for science and defending thesis dissertation versus, it's a contest, a business plan contest. And I brought them into my world. If I had to pitch about derivatives and investors and stages of investment, I would be very nervous and I wouldn't have done well. But to pitch about what I know, that's what I always tell people. You say what you know. If you know something, that's what you should be pitching. And I'm passionate about it. And I have both. So, and they weren't going to out energy me. There was no way. So so it was like 5. You asked a question. I asked your question. This guy's butting in Mr. Wonderful and Robert. It's like, Lori, it's pretty incredible. It's pretty intense, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, you got a long resume.
It's painful lauafter.
We were doing our research.
I've done a lot of crazy things, man. I can't believe it sometimes.
There was this on your old Twitter, we were going through, and there was a lot of like, got invited to this, got invited to that, got invited to this, like month, like you were just.
I know. I couldn't. Twitter was years ago, and still now I don't know how to share. Whether I mean, sharing versus bragging, and I always have a problem with that because I'm really kind of private. I won't say I'm shy, but I used to be shy when I was a kid. But I'm very private and sensitive, and I don't want to be like. Well, one of the things I fear most about the streamer business is I don't want to ambulance chase. Right. Like if there's some guy lost in. An NFL player got his jet ski flipped and he was lost at sea for like a day or two or half a day. And he was upside down. It's like 7-8 years ago. I could have gone to Tampa News and told him about the streamer and how this would have saved the guy. I set my Google alert to the phrase lost at sea and lost hiker all day. Beep, beep. So I could go around telling people that are scared, and I don't want to scare people into buying this. So I'm kind of sensitive to that. and sensitive. Now I'm old as shit. I don't care anymore about like privacy so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I care, but I got kids. I was always worried they're young and they're going to think I'm an asshole, and I don't want to screw up their future by saying your dad's whacked, even though I am, but in a good way. Yeah. And then it's been crazy. But yeah, back then I didn't know the Twitter. I haven't posted something on Twitter X in 10 years. So I didn't. I need to go back. Maybe I need to go back, or maybe not. But I just went over to old man Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. But I should be all. That's what I'm saying. I could be dangerous if I was on social media.
Yeah.
But I still debate always whether I want to do it. And my compromise is PR, and that's I always am looking. I'm always welcome for PR. You know, PR, public relations, exposure through the media. That's how I built the streamer thing. I got a folder. It started 30 years ago with my brother used to tell me, he was in advertising. He goes, there's editors sitting on their ass every day wondering what to write about. Here's this book in the library before computers called Bacon's Publicity Checker. It's still there, or so it's online now. You can look at the editor or marketing director of every magazine and newspaper. And there's fax numbers. You guys are too young, but you've heard of faxes, right?
Yeah.
So in Hawaii, they're like a joke, but it's funny. But I had one, and at 11:01 every night, it was half the price to do phone calls or faxes. So every night I would make a one-page fax, and I'd have a whole list of faxes, and just like for a couple hours send 100 faxes, like it was a fishing expedition. 100 lines in the water, you get a hit. The first hit was the Miami Herald, which is where I happened to grow up, and then I sent that out to 100 people saying, they're writing about it, why aren't you? And kept doing that. And my book now, before I went digital, like 10 years ago, the book is like that thick, like 4 inches. I've been in Outside Magazine, Playboy, I got CNN, Discovery Channel, I got everywhere. I'm a media whore, and I'm proud of it. But because the other thing about it is, though, that's third-party endorsement.
Yeah.
If I had a lot of money, I could put an ad in Outside Magazine, but that's not as good as the editor saying, look at this. This is cool. This is some new shit that you should check out. And I'm a polite pain in the ass. So when I wanted Outside Magazine, and they're the perfect example, they said, call me back. I keep calling them back. This is where you get the editor's name or the whoever. Keep calling them back. Oh, sorry to bug you. I was wondering if you're going to ever write about the streamer, or the Herald is writing about it, or the Navy just approved it. Oh, maybe call me, but they keep blowing me off. But I keep making a note to call them back. It took me 3 years, and they finally wrote about it. And I also let them be funny. I don't know if it was Men's Journal or one of those. They wrote Gilligan's Island would have been one episode if they had the streamer.
Ooh,
that was brilliant. Title, so you let So you let people embrace it. And Playboy, I got it written up in Playboy. You don't remember Playboy used to have this magazine, before YouPorn or Pornhub or whatever the hell's going on these days. But Playboy was the printed version, and they had a cool gadgets section. So I got written up in that, and then of course I had to follow up and say, how about a picture? We could drape a model around with the streamer. Yeah. They blew me off.
Nah.
No, but it's okay. I tried. Yeah, the thing is, if you don't try, you'll never know, right? And my whole thing is, I'm going for it. If I get denied or shot down, yep, and that's polite pain in the ass. That's me. And so, yeah, I still, the problem with the social media is it's still a tough sell to sell safety. So, and Shark Tank's a good example. 9 million people saw that. And still, we had decent sales, but nothing like a pitch that really went pretty well. Should have way more than the sales. And again, last year with TikTok, 15 million people saw it, but it's just a blip in sales. So I decided to focus more on the military, because the military, they have to be safe. They've got investment in their people, and they're just more safety conscious. And the other thing I've noticed is women buy it more than men, believe it or not. And that was one of my ideas. Yep. And I said, we had a funny tagline, which is the perfect gift for your loved one if you want them to come home. if you don't want them to come home, don't buy it. So kind of, I never did that, but I mean, you can have fun with it. And so it's been a crazy ride, but I'm still running it. I'm still riding it.
We saw that you
and
got,
that's the thing about that.
Go on.
No, it's okay.
Okay. We saw that you have some other patents. You have 3 inventions.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
more than that.
People
I got
know
like 100.
100. The thing we saw.
Not 100 patents. I have 100 inventions.
Oh,
but they don't make the cut. I have
Okay.
like 6 or 7 different ones that got patents.
what is?
But I have some weird, wacky ones that I would never patent them. But
yeah, what are
I
some
solve
ones
problems
that you
for
want
me. Okay.
have people know about?
Okay. Well, I'll give you the credible ones, so you have more respect for me before I tell you. I got the streamers, the number 1. Then I have the inflatable rescue boards, which actually turned into the inflatable paddle boards, and I almost made a fortune on that because I was the first person to patent that, and now and they're going to be air droppable now, like drones. So you drop an inflatable board from the plane and drive it from the plane to the survivors or the flood victims. Working on that. A portable desalinator to convert salt water to fresh water using 2 simple bags. That's my best invention. And I got military funded for it. It's got patents, but it still doesn't make enough water. It only makes like a shot glass full, a couple a day, and they want a whole liter. So I'm working on that. I have a pocket flotation device, which is started as a joke. Someone years ago used to say, "What's your next invention? What's your next invention?" I said, "The smallest life jacket in the world, 2 condoms and a string." Okay, what? Blow up 2 condoms and tie the string through your arms and you float. And you got, if you're going to die, you got 2 boobs right around you, so you're comfortable. Mother's milk, you die. No, so I invented that, and it was a joke, but it wasn't a joke because the truth is, most people that drown, ask your Coast Guard friends, the statistics on men that drown, 60% I read have their zippers down when they find them. You know why that is?
No.
They're taking a leak on the side of the boat, and you want to get away from the boat and the people as far as possible. That's when you fall in. When you fall in, if you die, at least as soon as you fall in, your first thought isn't, "Oh, I got to pull my zipper up." No, I gotta not drown. So when they do drown, they find them with their zippers down. So the pocket float was the point is, if it was only as big as like your pocket, it fits in your pocket like a cell phone, versus wearing a big life jacket. No one's going to a party on a yacht and wearing life jackets. I mean, or anything, any boating. People don't want to wear them. Now they have inflatables. It's cool. So the idea was just simple bags, and I got them more techie. They're fluorescent and glow in the dark, and some have lights in them, and you can blow it up, and they're shrouded by. Oh, cool! My animal's right in the back. Anyway, pocket float, desalinator, rescue board, video search and rescue cameras. This is my only patent that I teamed up with people. I teamed up with a couple real brainiacs, other PhD guys that are into cameras and software. The camera flies over and it scans an area and it looks at the ocean or the land, and it looks for colored shapes like an orange rectangle, which is the streamer. That absolutely, this was 10, 15 years ago, that absolutely took off. All the military use that now. But because it's military, we had no standing to sue because it's the government. So it was just, anyway, so that one. And then I have some others I can't think of right now, but the funnier ones are, I start with some of the stupid ones, which is like I drive to the North Shore to go surfing and I wear shorts and the sun beats down on my legs and the top of my knees gets sunburned. So this is so stupid, but I take 2 white terry cloth rags and I put them on my knees and I call them knee-brellas, which is stupid in itself. But I've been using them for 20 years like that. And because they're cotton, they breathe. The color's high albedo, so it's cool. And the coolness of the air with my windows down, it heats under my knees. I don't get hot. So that's totally stupid, but it works. And then sunscreen was the other one. For years, I didn't wear sunscreen. I went to the dermatologist. I mean, I wore it, but he goes, "Oh, you got some things in the middle of your back you got to dig out." Okay, so he did it. He goes, "You got to get sunscreen on your back." So I went surfing with my buddy once, and and I don't have like women in bikinis around me putting sunscreen on. My friend, I go back, can you put your sunscreen on me? He puts it on me, which is I just don't like other guys touching it. He put it on my back. He goes, here, do my back. I went to do his back. It was nasty and hairy. I'm like, shit, I gotta invent something to prevent that. So I use at first it was just a little tab, and it was like a telescoping tab off the sunscreen like that. Then I just went to a tiny paint roller. So now I roll the paint on my back with a paint roller.
Attach it to like a back scratcher or something. There you go.
Right, exactly. And then because of my parents, I do know my first invention. They used to sell these little motors. They're like this big, and you plug them you attach them to a battery, and they spin. This little rod. They made it for model cars or something. I was 5 years old. I taped a drinking plastic straw to it, and it's spinning the straw, and I shoved it up my nose, electric nose picker. That's when my parents knew I was whacked. But that was my good one. But the thing is, I have millions of them all the time. The key is picking the winners.
Right.
I'm always writing it down. And for aspiring inventors, I really highly recommend keeping notes, whether you're inventing a song, writing, anything, a business. Take notes, because then you can go back. I know you guys, this world with the computers, at least take some digital notes, but I like hard notes. So I'll think of maybe 10 ideas. I'll go for a paddle to take a lunchtime break, come back, and I'm like, that's stupid. But if one or two out of the 10 survive, that's good odds. And the streamer kept coming back. I knew that was a good idea. No one believed me, but I kept pitching it, and I was doing crowdsourcing before that was a thing, asking everyone what you thought of this. And so that's just that idea. No matter what I was doing in my life, I knew I was going to come back to that. And I think I'm glad I did, because it was just, I'm still working it, 40 years later. So
what are your sales looking like? I'm assuming your sales would be way better like in Hawaii than they would in the mainland. I would assume like you got the local backing already, I'm assuming. Yeah. And then obviously you're surrounded by water.
It should be, and safety's a tough sell though, and for civilians. But like my son he does this foil paddleboarding. You heard of this?
I have not.
No.
These guys, he just crossed from Molokai to Oahu, 40 miles across the Keiki Channel. It's a rough Molokai Channel. That's where Eddie would go. You ever heard of that? The guy died. It's one of the roughest waterways in the world. So he did the crossing. These guys have a 8-foot board. They stand up with a paddleboard, and then they get up, and then it rises on the foil, and they start riding a wave with it down.
Seen that.
Yeah, so those guys, like just for PR, they're starting to carry streamers, because those guys, I just escorted them a couple months ago, and I could barely keep up with them in my boat. They haul ass, and the guys that one-man paddle, they take like 6 or 8 hours to get across. These guys take 3 hours. And in fact, I told my son when he was a kid, he's going, I'm going to cross the channel. I go, I'm not escorting you. It's too boring. They don't let you fish. But now that he goes 20 miles an hour, okay, I did it twice. But back to your question, then the military's all here, but their directives are usually from their headquarters from somewhere else. So, there's sales, but it's not what it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just keep tortoise in the hare. I'm the tortoise. I keep going and get a big military sale. And most of my biggest sales are from foreign militaries, like the Canadian Air Force. They put them on all their flight jackets, and SpaceX bought them, and they put them on all the astronauts' seats. So I just like to say they're under the ass of every astronaut. So I have the huge credibility, but it's just, to me, it's like a tipping point. I think there's going to be a point at which someone will say, oh, this is stupid. These should be on every life raft, life jacket, flight jacket. It's obvious. They're only this big. They only weigh 8 ounces. So it's not like, and they're $100 and they last forever, which I already made that mistake. So it's like, anyway, so it'll probably be after I'm dead. You guys will say, oh yeah, that guy, they finally made these, you'll see them everywhere, but that's all right. I'm getting overamped about it. I don't really care that much anymore. I care. And I'm trying my hardest every time I do any PR or anything. I'm always trying to hit the home run. who's watching right now that is connected. Maybe your cousin's an admiral in the Navy, and it's like, shit, that has to be on every sub.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's it was on every sub, on every life raft. And, when we used to do demos with life raft guys, that's my favorite demo of all. Everyone gets in a life raft and they go, okay, the planes are looking for us. They shoot their flares. They light their smoke signal. They put their green dye in the water. Then in about 20 minutes, it's immediately the flare and the smoke is gone in a couple of minutes, seconds for the flare, minutes for the smoke, an hour for the sea dye. And then there's a streamer. And I go, okay, go to sleep. It's still working for you. Here's the enemy. Pull it in. Go back to sleep. Put it out again. That is checkmate in my world of arguing.
You would think,
right?
So.
If something is, well, and even the Navy, they called it the only passive and continuous signaling device.
Right.
Well, isn't that enough? Okay, if it's the only one, don't you want that? So, and it is. It's approved by all branches of the military, but they buy them piecemeal. Whatever command wants to or has the money or believes in it more. And I'm fine with that. It's just, like I said, I'm over being overamped about making them mandated. It's okay. I mean, it's your life. If your guys don't want to live, don't buy it. I mean,
fair enough.
I believe it should be a mandated thing. I mean, like you have to, like it's mandated to have life jackets for a certain amount of people. It's mandated to have a fire extinguisher on a boat. Like you are mandated to have these certain safety equipments. You would think that would be one.
Well, when you think about like a life jacket, like you just said, it has a certain level of flotation. Shouldn't there be a certain base level of visibility?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. So, and you know what? Maybe it's going to be like Volvo. You heard about the seatbelt. The Volvo and the Swedish Air Force is one of my customers, of course. All these. They instead of keeping the patent, they released it to the world and said it's going to save so many lives, which is incredibly admirable. This is like 50 years ago. And now, of course, there's seatbelts on all cars, just like airbags. Europeans are much more safety conscious. Us Americans are more like cowboys. It's not going to happen to me. And if it does, I'll MacGyver my way out or something.
I'll just live.
It's just total. Right. It won't happen to me. Anyway, so ultimately, they'll probably just, in 10 or 20 years, everyone will just make them when I'm dead. I won't be dead that soon, hopefully, but in 30 years when I'm dead, I'll be like 135 years. So 35 years, then they'll just say, screw it, that guy's gone. Let's all make them ourselves. And that's okay too.
Well, you know how the military is. They're slow to, when
yeah.
they get a new weapon, it's time they pick it up. But I know when I was in, all the safety stuff is like, this one time, this guy got like the oxygen sucked out of a Humvee because of the fire system in there. And then the next day they did a fire safety thing on it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, they're slow with safety too, as much as they try.
Yeah, no, I understand. And, I think it's the Army guys have that 3 foot by 3 foot orange that plastic thing. That is their signaling device. VRO or VP, some visible panel. I forgot the acronym, but
I never used one, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so the streamer's almost the same size as that, and that you can't see from 500 feet. So wouldn't you want something to see from 500 instead of that little panel? I mean, so I'm always trying to look for the easiest way in. Like, just take that out, put this in, done. Yeah. And the other thing is, we went to Quantico Marine Base for FPED, Force Protection Equipment Demonstration, years ago. And they were showcasing all these hot shit cameras, Honeywell, Lockheed, all the killer night vision cameras. And guess what? They had no targets. So I gave out some streamers to these Marines that were running in a field. And I was like the hit of the party. They're going, what's that? I go, that's the streamer. That's what they should have. And that costs $100. That's a $10 million camera. So you do the math. And then they would also pull it out partway. So you could see it. There are reflectors on it. They'd put it out. They'd go somewhere else. And they kept. So it's not only like when you're lost at sea or in the land, but it's, it's strategic. You want to get picked up by a helicopter, discretionary, but it's just for operational pickups.
Right.
Anyway,
I could even think about that as like because I was infantry, right? So I can think about like if you're calling in like a bomb out of the sky, do you need to be able to see, usually you would throw a smoke and say, okay, I have red smoke on the ground, versus like you could just throw out a streamer, because if you're in like an 8-hour firefight, you're probably going to do that multiple times. You know what I mean? So
exactly. And how long does the smoke last?
5 minutes.
Well, if the smoke doesn't last and the smoke drifts over you and then they bomb you, that's not good.
Yeah.
My father was infantry, D-Day. He was in the Battle of the Bulge. He passed away a couple of years ago.
101st Airborne?
But he was infantry. He wasn't airborne, but he was 90 days after D-Day. Battle of the Bulge in Belgium. He got his leg blown up by the German shrapnel. He was fine after, but he got a Purple Heart. Tells great stories about Paris after the war. But and he was all around when I was developing this, and he told me a lot about how the military operates, and I've seen it. And they do great stuff, but it's like turning the Titanic. You can't turn that quick.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't just go, oh, let's just change and put streamers here. There's all this, and I've been through it. I mean, that's why the streamers got all these approvals and it's got national stock numbers. But it's still hard, So I'm part of a international survival group that has all the militaries in the world, and we meet every year, and that's been really good for me because I meet people from every country, and that's been really good because again, the Europeans and some of the Asian countries are a little more safety conscious. It's just funny. Americans, we're just a little too confident, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, that's kind of the deal.
If you showed up with a brand new laser gun, they'd be all over it. But
you know what? This is funny, but I think I might have mentioned this in the shark thing. It got cut, but the streamer at $100, they weren't interested in. When I made an auto deploy one for the ejection seat fighter pilots, when it hits the water, their water soluble ties like rice paper candy. I made them out of plastic. Just dissolves. The streamer opens, the current takes it out. Then it has flashing lights that have photo sensors that only light when it's dark and turn off in the day. So it went from like $100 to like $1,000. Then they were interested.
Yeah.
So I was like,
how can we spend more money?
And then they came back and they go, oh, this is a little too expensive. We'll go back to the 100. So it was this great, like it got them in the door.
Yeah.
It's enough tech to not make fun of this guy for a piece of plastic. But then when they saw, well, this is a little expensive for us if we have to put $1,000 ones everywhere. So the $100 one looked better after that.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, but you got to be malleable. You have to form to whatever field you're in, right?
Yeah.
So if they give you lemons, you can make lemonade, right? Even like the sharks, they didn't like it, but I'm like, I'm not going down because you guys say it's no good. I'm going to use that as fuel to make it good. And hopefully, they're watching me one day going, I should have invested with that guy.
Be the
Still waiting for Mark Cuban.
The next Scrub Daddy.
Yeah.
So you've spoke a lot about about the last 20 years or so. I want to hear about the Ron Yonover from the age of 5, making his first invention, all the way until now. Give me the timeline of
easily. We hung out, and I lived in Miami, which was like New York South back then. And we played on the streets, and we played sports and football, basketball, everything. And we did a little fishing on a little lake, and we went to the beach. And then I became a pool boy. That was a big step. I started working at Miami Beach as a pool boy. And I got into free diving, and then this other guy came to our neighborhood. He heard they wanted to challenge us in football, and they were real football players. But we had plays. We played every night, and we had this really elaborate touch football. I still think the NFL is stealing some of my plays. We had some killer plays. We devised, and these guys, these real football players, my neighbors who. We had a common friend. He brought him into my neighborhood looking for me because he knew I was pretty good at football and he wanted to kick my ass. Like, okay. So it ended up me and my geeky 3 buddies, 2 buddies, the 3 of us took on them. And this one guy is like in the Hall of Fame football and played baseball his father played semi-pro. He's a great athlete. And we kicked their ass and they were so embarrassed, but he liked us. And he took me under his wing and he took me to the beach. We were pool boys at this other pool, but he took us to this other pool where his father was the pool manager. And 5 doors down was another pool manager. And that guy was from Hawaii. So we got to learn how to fish, surf, dive, Hawaiian style while we were in Miami. And the surfing thing is what really nailed it. I mean, I was an addict. I still am. And it's been 60 years, 50 something years. And, I tell people, listen, it's true that the waves in Miami are blocked by the Bahamas. So they're about 1 inch tall. And the women were mean. So it was a horrible place to grow up. Really. But it looked and felt like Hawaii. And like these people, like the kids I knew were from Hawaii, some of them, and all the names were like the Sun City. In fact, the first hotel that guy took me to, the name of it was Waikiki Beach Hotel in Miami. So we go to the surf movies when we're like 14. This kid was older. His father redshirted him in kindergarten so he could play baseball more. So he had a car and a mustache when we were like 14. He was 15. So we'd go to the surf movies and all they showed was Hawaii and beautiful women and great waves. I'm like, oh, this sucks. I live in this. Miami's cool, but for a surfer, it was a hellhole. And so I just got the bug. And then, I went to college with these kids who kept surfing, kept traveling by. And one of the kids that this was right at the transition from I went to sports to full surfing. I was a pool boy, but I still tried out for the freshman basketball team. And I didn't grow till like college. So I was only 5'8". I'm like 6'1" now, but I was only 5'8". And this kid came down from New York and he was like 5'4". And he just a little tiny kid, but he's a real New Yorker. I liked. He got in a fight the first day of school. He had 2 casts on his arm. I took him under my wing. I took him to the beach, and my friends were like, "Get rid of this kid." I go, "No, he's cool. He's cool." That kid is the Jane's Addiction lead singer. So you know that band, right? And Lollapalooza, he started that. So that was, and my crew. You heard of him, right? You've heard of the name,
right? I know Lollapalooza.
I know Lollapalooza.
Okay. That's right. Well, Porno for Pyros and Jane's Addiction. Okay, you guys are too young. Anyway, major rock star. And years later, they invited me on Warner Brothers tab to go to Indonesia and film a music video. So that was cool. We're still friends. He was just in Hawaii. So I took him under my wing, and I have all these, and those guys that came to challenge us in football, they were like derelicts, really. I mean, compared to our little tight neighborhood, they were from like the other side of the tracks. In Miami, the beach is where the money is. Then there's railroad tracks. Then there's one rich neighbor, middle class, upper middle class. Then there's another set of railroad tracks. Then there was us guys, middle class. Then there's another set, and that was like the lower to middle class or lower class where my buddies were from. And my parents always preached respect, responsibility, and resourcefulness. And most importantly, responsibility. You show more, you get more. You show more, you get more. So I figured this out early. I wanted to surf. I wanted to play football. I want to hang out on the streets. I want to hang out with my derelict friends. So I figured it out. And my brother would get in trouble for screwing up in school. I'm like, I'm getting straight A's. And they couldn't touch me. So I would get straight A's and I'd say, hey, there were going to be waves. And the waves that weren't blocked by the Bahamas in Florida are up by Sebastian Inlet of Fort Pierce, further up. So I would ask my parents if I could take the car and skip school. I said, look, I'm ahead on my classes. I got all straight A's. And can I take my derelict friends? And again, responsibility, more. So they gave me the car. And then my coup de grace on that was a couple of months later. I said, hey, can I borrow the car? And my parents were really cool. They were like, really, my father was like a crazy inventor type. My mom was like an artist. And they took us on road trips every summer. My father built a box for the top of the station wagon. And, we make the same kind of goofy mistakes. We're not the most common sense. He built the box in our house and then realized it won't fit out the door. So he had to detach it and then rebuild it outside. So we went all over the country every summer, visiting family, friends. And then so they taught us how to travel. So after my friends, a couple of my surf trips, I go, hey, can I borrow the car? They go, well, who's going? I go, oh, Perry and Lolly, Ugg, and they're like, and they go, okay, where are you guys going? I go, well, again, this is Miami. This is like 1970s. No cell phones, no GPS, nothing. We're going to New York to stay at Perry's friend, who was the most derelict of my friends. So they had to give me the car, take me with my friends who were all questionable from the other side of the tracks, and they did it. So a 16-year-old kid took his 3 buddies on a 1,000-mile trip with no cell phone. And I always tell new parents that I go, when you do that, stop helicoptering your kid with the cell phone and tracking his phone or her phone. Shit, they got to learn to make mistakes. And we lived, barely. I mean, there were some million stories on that, but we got all the way to New York and his brother wasn't there. We were going to stay with Perry's brother. We got there, his brother's gone. We were going to kill him. So we were driving around looking for a place to stay. We didn't have any money. We had a little money, but it had to last a month. So we saw these dorms, like a college there. Let's go in there. And some RA guy goes, oh, look at these idiots. I'll make some money. So he goes, you can stay in these dorm rooms for $20 or $10. Okay, but in the middle of the night, Malali, who was this big football player, one of us who was our muscle, he woke up. They were ripping us off. So he caught him. So we got the hell out of there. We had to sleep on the beach and in the car. And that turned out to be, of course, the day of the best waves of the trip. So just like that. And then on the shuttle in Cape Hatteras, these kids would be looking at our car, and we had surfboards on the car and on the racks. And my parents, this wasn't too smart, but we had a wrestling pad they would fold down in the back of the station wagon, and we'd sleep back there while we were driving, which is crazy now.
Oh, yeah.
You got to wear a seatbelt or you go right through the window. We drove all around the country without seatbelts for like 10 years. So we did the same, and these kids were like bugging us. And Perry just says, screw it. I'm taking out my Playboys. And he unfurled centerfolds and naked women all around the bed of the station wagon. And that solved the problem. The parents snatched their kids away from us. So that got it started. And I got all these A's. I went to Florida State University, the state school, with some of my buddies. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I took a class, and I had this wacko geology professor. I was pretty good in science and math, and he blew my mind. And people are always bugging me, like, oh, what are you going to do? You're so smart. You can do anything. And then finally I said, get off my back. I like volcanoes. That's in my mind. I'm like, I know how I'm going to deal with you. I'm going to tell you I'm into gold, oil, and diamonds, which is what geology is about. And then all the money people that were like, oh, you're going to be a money guy? I'm like, no, but that's what I'm into. And so that got me there. And then every day he offered me I did really well in this guy's class, and it was like a weed out class, and he noticed me. And then I had him in optical mineralogy, which is like the hardest class in geology. And I aced it, and we became buddies. We used to party together. And he's still good buddies of mine. He's a great guy. He was at NASA, and then he's in Oregon now, or California. And he just offered me a master's assistantship. So I got my master's there. We worked on a gold deposit in Nova Scotia, Canada. And then I kept walking by the geology building, and every day there's a picture of the Hawaiian Islands. And I kept thinking back to those surf movies, and I'm going, and even Tallahassee, where I live, it's another kind of shitty place to surf. You're 2.5 hours from the Gulf, and you're 3 hours from St. Augustine, which are 2 decent spots, way better than Miami.
Right.
But 2 or 3 hours, and we would party and then go surfing at like 2 a.m, right after a party, to drive the 4 hours to surf. And I never trusted anyone, so I used to drive. But anyway, that got the bug. I used to see that Hawaii thing. Finally, I applied there, and I got in a car wreck years later working for Exxon in Texas. I flipped over in a car, almost died. Nothing happened to me, but I should have died. I ended up upside down in a drainage ditch. And then I thought, I'm going to just forget this, because they offered me a job to drill oil wells, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to live in Texas, Kingsville. I don't know where you guys are, but that place
We're in Dallas.
It's cool, but yeah, Dallas is great. The job offer wasn't in Dallas. I tried to parlay the offer into Ventura, California, where Exxon had another location, but they weren't having it. They were finally saying, we got 500 people who'll take your job. I go, okay. And then that accident had happened. I'm like, okay, forget it. I could have died then. I'm going for my dreams. Forget this bad surf. I'm going for good surf and volcanoes. And I got an offer to go to New Zealand first, but I looked at the globe and I'm like, that's pretty far from Florida. And the water's freezing and there are great white sharks there. I'm like, then the Hawaii offer came in. I'm like, I'm all over. And this one guy called me and goes, you can work on active volcanoes on the Big Isle. I'm like, okay. Then like 2 weeks later, this other professor called me and goes, look, I just got funded. We're going to Galapagos to the ocean floor where there's an ocean floor spreading system volcano. And I got 20 dives in the Alvin submersible, the one that found the Titanic, that red and white one. Mm-hmm. He goes, you want to work with me? I go, yeah. So this is a perfect show for this. I can tell you a little off color.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I dove 2 miles down and I'm the only human the submarine, regular submarines, like Navy ones, they only go like half a mile, maybe. Mm-hmm. The submersible goes miles down, 2 miles down. So I could tell you all sorts of submersible stories, but my tagline is, I'm the only human you'll ever meet that is in the Mile High Club and was in position to be in the Mile Down Club. But she was a lesbian and I was married. That's all true.
Bad luck.
Two of the worst things.
No, I love being married. My wife passed away from multiple sclerosis. She was in a wheelchair, so I can't. I'm not a player. I was monogamous for 33 years. I should have that tattooed on my head, especially in this day and age.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy out here now.
Oh my God. And it's fine. Whatever. Each to his own. But I stayed committed, and that was just a funny joke. But it's actually true. Mm. So the submarine was, and it's tiny. So I'm a little claustrophobic. So to go in there, they have to test you while it's on the boat. They go, okay, you go in now and show me you're not going to freak out. So we're on this ship cruising from Costa Rica to Galapagos, and they go, okay, get in now. And there's a big old vent of air because there's no air in it. And then you crawl down the ladder, you get in there, and it's like, as I could only stand up like halfway, and I can touch all sides with my hands. And 3 people are going in there, and I'm like, I can do it. And then there are rules like you can't eat beans the day before your flight. That's true. And then Sharpie, you can't use a Sharpie pen because of the smell. Oh, yeah. So it was crazy. And then these submarine drivers, there were a couple older guys, but a couple were like young 25-year-old kids. And one of my dives, I had 2 dives. The one guy smoking a cigarette, and then they close the hatch. I'm like, oh God. Then on the way down, there's CO2 scrubbers, because the more you breathe out CO2, you're going to die if that's not taken in. They got oxygen for you. And the guy goes, oh, as we're going down, sinking, the guy goes, oh, the CO2 scrubber's not doing it. And he hits it. He goes, oh, there it goes. I'm like, Jesus. So that's really encouraging. I'm about to go down for 2 hours to the bottom, 4 on the bottom, and 2 to get up. Anyway, it was incredible. It was like going to the moon. And that's why when I got that crazy professor I had freshman year, he got a job at NASA in Houston, and he goes, you got to apply for this program. And I did. I got the money, which was cool because I got to go to Hawaii with my own grant money. And that was my dream. I was right next. I worked on some of the lunar rocks. I didn't work on them, but they were there. I saw them. And there was a swimming pool where they trained the astronauts. So I got to go eat lunch and hang out. I'm like, I want to go up. So I wanted to be the first human. That's kind of where my joke comes from. First human to be deep inner space and outer space.
Hell yeah.
But the Challenger blew up right while I was there. Oh my. And they stopped taking scientists. So that dream's over. And I'm still hoping maybe Elon Musk or Bezos. I want to go up, man. Give me a call. I want to go up.
Hey, you got the connections to SpaceX already, don't you?
It's low-level engineers. I tell you, Elon Musk, he ain't calling me, but I'll tell you what, I like to tell people this. He buys shit from me. I don't buy shit from him. How many people can say that?
We'll talk to him. Yeah, we got you.
Tell him I want to go
next week, so it'll be yeah,
right. Anyway, it's fun, man. You just gotta charge for your dreams and visions. I've been fortunate, man. I got dealt a good set of cards. I got some good genes, good geography, good time of time to grow up, a crazy place to grow up, cool friends. And, I was lucky in that, but I didn't squander that. I took advantage of that. And I outwork everyone. Everyone thinks I'm so down to earth, cool, and I am. But even Shark Tank, I practice that 100 times. I do the homework.
Yeah.
That's I can be casual and low key. And it's funny, my cousin used to tell me he got into Yale and he was older than us and he had a beard and he used to wear this rugby shirt and we thought he was the coolest guy. And he used to tell us that at Yale, he didn't want anyone to know he's studying because he had this cool image trying to get laid. So he would go hide to go study, so no one would ever see him studying. And I kind of took that lesson. I don't care. I want people to know I'm studying. What I did in college, and this is for any of your college students, dinner time is a waste of time at college, right? You're just like playing beer drinking games or watching TV or smoking pot or drinking, whatever the hell people do in college. But from 4 to 8 p.m., nothing happens at night. 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, that's the party scene, daytime classes, whatever. So I studied from 4 to 8 o'clock, not every day, but I went to the library for dinner and I would go squirrel away and I found this really quiet place. And years later, I went back there to check out the library, and I'm like, "You idiot!" Because you know why it's so, and there were this plexiglass all around it, where I used to, and no one was ever in there from 4 to 8. Then I went a couple of years later. Someone's smoking a cigarette in there. I went into they used to have a smoking section in the library, which no one smoked, so I would have left if someone was smoking while I was studying. So so that was my big front for doing the work, man. You got to do the work. You can't just mail it in.
Right.
And the shit I'm trying to do my whole life is big shit. I want to make a difference and get a home run, and I go for the home runs and strike out a lot, but I also hit singles or doubles, and that's okay. Yeah. Right. So that's kind of my strategy.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody who struggles with that mentality?
I think you got to force yourself to put the time in. It's kind of like putting a baby to sleep. I got a grandkid now, and I'm telling my son and his wife about, you can't listen to the kid cry. The kid can cry. He's not going to die. You can cry for 15 minutes. Don't go up there and pick him up or her up out of the crib, because then she's smarter than you think. Oh, I cry, they pick me up. I cry, they give me shit. So, and even my parents, as a kid, I couldn't go to sleep well. I had trouble falling asleep. I was always nervous about school, or when I was a teenager. And they used to say, and my mom used to lie to me. She goes, "You don't have to sleep. Just close your eyes. It's resting." Which is, it's not the same, but it's better than nothing, the alternative. And they turned me on to sports radio, which is also a weird thing. So I used to listen to the radio, so I think my advice is to just get stuck in it. So even if you can't work through, even like writer's block, you got to just get in there. And even if you do nothing, set the time aside and sit in there like with your proverbial eyes closed and rest. I mean, I don't mean rest. Sit and write, or don't write, but just put the hours in and set aside time. Your guys' generation, man, the distractions are off the charts.
Yes. Yeah. That's why struggle.
I'll tell you, the first thing is to throw your phone in the bathtub and make it die. That's my first advice. I always said, I'm going to get a cell phone blocker. They're not legal in the U.S. When my grandkids get older, my kids are lucky. They didn't have smartphones till like after or college when they bought them. I mean, they had, flip phones.
Yeah.
Even that's bad. Texting. In our day and age, we engage with people. My daughter used to say to me, "How'd you ever meet someone in your day without cell phones, GPS, texting?" I go, "You went to the mall. You said you were going to go somewhere, and you were there."
Yep.
If they weren't there, they're not there. And these social media companies, they want your dollar, so they know the addiction of scrolling. And I love it too. It's great, but I'm an old ass. It doesn't matter. I'm already set in my ways. They're dangerous for young people. They're just sitting there, and part of it is the body image for women, or just jealousy for everyone. Oh, look how great that guy's life is. And how do I get done with this? I don't have any blocks of time. You have to get disconnected. Right. And that's why I guess my overall advice is to go to the library smoking section for 2 hours a day if they had one. Go to a library. I mean, if you can wade through, the people on, playing around in the library or playing with themselves or on porn sites in the free library terminals, go find a place where there's no one, because you're supposed to be quiet in a library. You're supposed to not use your cell phone. So try to reprogram yourself on how to use your mind and your whole ability to write. Take a piece of pen and a paper. That's the other thing. No devices. I mean, as much as I love these devices, I hate them. And where's my phone? I'll show you right now. This is my pride and joy. That's that's my phone. And the only reason I have this one, this is kind of like a contractor, military, real rugged thing, is because my real candy bar phone died because it wouldn't do 3G or 4G. And the worst thing of all happened. People would send me texts and it would show that they sent it and I never got it. So still, and that phone will get me on the internet. I can check a football score or I can watch a YouTube video barely, but there's no apps on that phone. But on iPad, to me, my strategy is when you're home, that's when you should be scrolling. You should never be scrolling out in the real world. Maybe it's not in your car either, but like if you're meeting with other humans, you should do human shit. You should look in their eyes. They should look back at you, right? And that's such a hard addiction to break. And I love this shit. That's part of the reason I don't want a phone this good. I don't want a phone that I can open up Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all this stuff, which is phenomenal. Netflix, everything is there. And, everyone's condensed it to 10-second. You got to hook them in 2 seconds, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So everything is overly colorful, dramatic. It's unbelievable.
Our attention spans are in the gutter.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's terrible.
So I don't even, I don't know what to say. Except what I just said, which is, if I had kids, I might think about the round the world trip on a sailboat for the first 10 years. So they're never really connected. And like I said about that cell phone blocker, I was going to get one for my house, turn it on, no cell phones work. So it's illegal in the US, but you can find them on the internet. And I still may get one because these kids, if I have, for everyone, when people come to my house, man, I don't have a big old TV in my house. I got a stereo,
Hell yeah.
I got a TV in my bedroom and I got a little one in the living room, but it's more for like one person. It looks like the back of a airline seat. It's like a monitor. And I get close to it, then I get between my tower speakers, and I got a way to put the TV through the speakers. It's awesome. I feel like I'm at a game. It's a small screen, but I don't want 10 people coming here to watch a game. I want 10 people coming up over here to listen to music and talk, dance, whatever. Do human shit.
Yeah.
Right? And if the music's loud enough, the phone is at least partially disabled. You can't listen to it.
Yeah.
That'll make you read a little. So it's a challenge. Your guys' generation, it's a challenge. And I don't know. On one hand, it's good for I can sell shit on Amazon because everyone's on their phone all day. But
there you go.
It's, I don't really want to make my money that way, but it's just, but maybe the good thing is hopefully we're getting smarter. So all the stuff we're scrolling through, I like to think, I used to defend social media, and I still do. It's a function of who you follow. Mm-hmm. If you follow idiots, you're an idiot. Yeah. No, you're not an idiot. If you follow idiots, you read about what idiots are doing. If you follow brilliant people or talented people, you're learning and listening to talented people. So I used to tell, and the other thing I do is I turn the volume off. Mm. So when I'm scrolling, I don't listen to anything. So if you show, and my son used to say, great video on this. I'll debate this. No, man, you send me a paper on it. Or if you send me a video, I'll just read it. They do subtitles now. Yeah. But another thing about this day and age with science versus not science, I said to my kids, science means a referee journal, meaning I write a science paper based on real science, hypothesis, you test it, you show your results, then you submit it to a journal, and all these other scientists review it to make sure your science is legitimate. That gets published. That's what I want to read. That's science. not some guy that gets interviewed on Joe Rogan. I don't really. Yeah. He may or not, man. He or she may not have written something like that, but it's unlikely. They get more people that are just like, just fronting what they're good at. And I want to read the data. And science changes. Some guy proves something, then it's disproven. But it's all about reading to me. And that's the biggest. No one reads anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why these political arguments I have with people, I can't do it anymore. And my first statement is not even just political, anything. You want to argue me with anything, tell me what you're reading. Tell me what you have read, what you do read. If we're all, and I try to read the full spectrum, politically and everything. But science is science. There's no spectrum. It's whether you proved it or not, right. And this journal publishes it, or just opinions. Opinions are cool too, but I like to try to read opinions. An opinion, like a letter to the editor, should cite science and statistics. So it's kind of like a mini science event. At least you're trying to back your argument with facts. You're not just yelling at each other. So that's kind of where I am with that. And it's just frustrating because, again, social media, those guys are good, man. They know how to suck people in, and, sex sells. That's the other real problem. We all, guys and women, the women, unfortunately, the body image and, having women have to look with this unrealistic goal. And guys, we just want to see these naked, beautiful women. It's all unrealistic. Yeah. So I'm like, that's fine. And if that's what you use your internet for primarily, I kind of respect you more. If you read scientific journals and you just did porn, like, okay, clearly the internet's fantastic for porn because, or not just porn, just, fluffing, fluffery, you know what a fluffer is?
I pretty much. Yeah.
Those are the guys that warm you up before you're seen in a porno shoot. So they're just exciting you. So these beautiful women on Instagram or beautiful men for the women. Women like to look at men just as much as we do. It's a two-way street. Sex is beautiful, and I go by the European standards, which is sex is a beautiful natural thing. Americans like the Puritan ethic. We're like pilgrims and overly religious. So to compensate, we overcompensate on the internet. Whereas you go to Europe, it's like nudity and sex. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. It's nature. It's really not a big deal. But if you're using your phones for that, to get excited or have a play date with your partner or whatever, or reach, that's fine. But that's like a crutch, and that's okay. But if you're using the internet to follow people that have no basis to be an expert, and you're quoting them and parroting their supposed expertise, then I think that's off the mark.
I think that's a big problem that we have going on right now too, is a lot of people just, we say a lot of shit, but we acknowledge that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. They say things. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. You're not proclaiming to be experts.
Yeah.
Right. But it's, I also, the flip side, like my brother who totally rejected it. He was an AOL guy early on. Ooh. And he got me into it, but then he totally rejected it. And we have a privacy thing in my family that I've blown the doors off of. My relatives would be shocked to be watching this shit. So and I don't really care. And I'm not really showcasing my kids or my house or anything like that. I mean, you have heard my dog, but privacy was a big thing. So he never got into it. So I have to cut and paste, screen grab shit from Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn to send him. And I'm thinking he's really missing out because part of my scrolling is what's happening and what is trending. I want to know. I don't want to be left behind. But I'm a much more disciplined scroller. So I can spend 20 minutes doing that instead of 5 hours doing it.
Right.
But I get the gist. So if something is trending on the internet, I usually know about it because among my brilliant friends on Facebook and all over, I have idiot friends too. I like them too. I want the full spectrum. Yeah, I don't know how you guys are. I mean, it's cool because it's incredible. I was thinking about it the other day. What a day and age. I mean, scrolling is unbelievable. And even like watching a game and having a TV. This whole distracted watching, which I am not a fan. Like if I'm giving a talk, or I don't even know how people teach anymore. When I was teaching, No one had phones. If you had a phone, I would throw it out the window. Now everyone's like texting their mother or something. I don't even know what they're doing. I would collect them. If I ever taught at any level again, professor or anything, elementary, I would walk around with a basket at the beginning and lock them all and say, look, if there's an emergency, I'll tell the school, they'll call your mommy or daddy, and vice versa. They'll come get you. You're not looking at your goddamn phone, okay? That number one. And somehow your generation has to get to where you have blocks of time like that. And I'm not saying everyone has to go back to school, but that's why I like the water and nature so much, because there's shitty reception and your phone's going to break, right?
Yep.
So when people come with me on a boat and they're kids, I'm like, oh, don't bring that phone. It might break. You might not get another phone. It falls in the water, the salt air, and it's true. And if you go 10 or 15 miles out, you have no reception. So, not that I take little kids out that far, but there's got to be a way to get blocks of time. So
discipline, really.
That's why if you see the trend, all these like 60s, 70 things are coming back, like, you know, Grateful Dead, just all these retro things where you go to a festival, you're not supposed to, you know, things where you're supposed to just be in nature and not with the phone, and just kind of learn to be a human again and interact with other humans. And I don't know. I mean, I think it starts in small amounts. So for all the addicted people, and there are most of them, put your phone down for an hour a day. Start with an hour. See if you can turn it off for an hour, you know, and just, that's why, you know, work out, exercise. And that's why even sleeping, I tell people, and even my style is not to go look at screens right before you sleep, you know, then you're seeing all this stupid shit or horror shit while you're sleeping, or you just get that little buzz of scrolling and you don't get tired. I mean, I think sleep has really suffered because of scrolling. And I think, and people, and I use it, like if I get up and I can't sleep, or if I'm thinking of something that's stupid, I have a weird dream, I'll go scroll a little to get something other than what I was on my mind to replace it. So that's good. But in general, once you start going down the scrolling path, you kind of don't get tired. And like, it's a weird thing. It's like a drug, and it's not a good one, you know?
Yeah, well, it's like the blue light or whatever, right?
Exactly.
It's like a real thing that, like, the sleep doctors, they talked to me about it one time, because there was a long period where I couldn't sleep for shit.
Right.
That is part of what they told me is no technology for an hour before sleep. Generally.
Did it help?
It helped a little bit. The main thing that helped me was your bed should only be in your bed when you're sleeping, ever.
Right.
And then that helped me a lot as well.
Sex too.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, it doesn't have to be in the bed. No, absolutely. I totally agree. And that's why, like, I agree. That's why you should start winding down as you go to your bed. You shouldn't be winding up, and you shouldn't have, you know, an entertainment center surrounding your bed, because you're going to be entertained instead of sleep.
Yeah. Because your body gets used to you not being awake while you're in bed or laying down, period.
Exactly. And you think that's sleep, and it's a mixture of sleep and, let's call it, rest or scrolling. I don't know what it is, but no, it's a challenge. And I think that humans are pretty malleable. We can adapt to anything. And I think this is my favorite subject of all. I hate to bring it up, but I always do, which is the food people eat. The shitty diet is the worst. So the human body keeps adapting to a shitty diet, shitty sleep, bad information. I mean, how much abuse can the human take? It turns out a lot. So, you know, you got the food industry giving you the shit that gets you fat enough and sick enough, so the pharmaceutical guys can give you pills to keep you okay enough to keep buying the food and the pharmaceuticals. It's like a hamster wheel. And for me, it's easier because I know that I got to eat well because I want to surf big waves and not die. So to me, it's food is fuel. It's not just food.
Right.
And my whole thing is you got to earn your meals. I got to walk this crazy dog, then I earn breakfast. I paddle or surf, then I earn lunch. Then I walk the crazy dog again, and I earn dinner. So everything is a payoff. So if I don't, and if you write for 3 hours, you've earned a meal. I mean, you got to do something that if you're just sitting around scrolling or TV, to me, you've earned a very light kale salad or something, but if you've done a lot, you get a full bore barbecue ribs, whatever. You eat it all. But that's my own personal philosophy. And I don't want to see, I think it's changing. I mean, I think the internet's helped in getting people more knowledgeable about what we put in our bodies. But as you know, everyone wants a quick fix, right? So the new Ozempic and all these pills that make you skinny, but you look like you're in a horror movie. I don't even know what that look is for. Your face drops and, and these women have it so hard. I really feel bad for men too, I guess. Men are just, the other thing is men now use product just like women, and it's totally changed. Like when I was a guy, you wouldn't be caught dead occasionally aftershave if you really thought you were styling on a date. But there was deodorant. Guys now have hair product, skin product, sleeping masks, all this shit. And it's like, and even plastic surgery, you go all the way. So it's like body image and just trying to keep up with someone else because their lips are big for the women, that whole duck look or whatever that is. And it's just nuts. And the other thing is everyone looks at themselves through pictures. So you look at pictures of yourself on your screen and you look different. So you think that becomes the reality.
Right. And going back to the whole advice thing in general, do you have any advice for young inventors of our generation in general?
Absolutely. First and foremost, write down your inventions, get like a notebook of your inventions, start keeping a record, because records are important in case there's ever a battle of who thought of it and when. And then my overall advice is to invent what you know. And inventing is broader than just a contraption like a streamer,
right,
or a television. It can be a poem, it can be a song, it can be writing, it can be art. So to me, it's the most important thing to do. We're all inventors. Mm-hmm. We all should turn the phone off and get your material of choice, which may be a keyboard, it may be art, it may be hardware, it might be in your shop, wherever it is. Get centered in there and create. And the best advice I ever got on writing was vomit on the keyboard. And that was brilliant. So if you're a writer or an inventor or an artist, it means be productive and don't hold back. Let it flow out of you. Don't worry about making it look perfect. Get the ideas and thoughts down, come back to them. And my thing was always come back, go to one idea. When you get a little stuck or get tired or you've made a nice end point, go do something else and then come back to it with like a fresh set of eyes. And another piece of advice is never quit your day job. So you can quit your day job. You got to have a source of money. You can't just invent something and say, oh, this is going to make me $1 million. It takes twice as much money and 10 times as much time to get something off the ground. So if you have 128 hours in a week, you got 40 hours of sleep and 40 hours of work, that's 80. You still have 40 hours to invent. So put the phone down and at nights and weekends, work on your inventions. Mm-hmm. That's, again, back to time budgeting and focusing. And if you have an apartment where there's a bunch of noise and your roommates, get out of there and go to the library smoking section or whatever that equivalent may be, or get in your shop and just keep tinkering with things. Because some of the best inventions come by mistake, right? Mm-hmm. You're like working on one thing, you screw up. Even the streamer, one of the most important aspects of it was a mistake. And when I first, it has struts, so it's like a centipede, little spreader bars every 3 feet. When I first invented it out on my lanai, and my wife was going, stop playing with that piece of plastic and get a real job, which she grew to eat those words. But when I was building the first streamer ever, I was one of two things. I was either too cheap or too much in a hurry, that when I laid down the spreader bars, and what I used for spreader bars were these pipettes from the chemistry lab I was teaching at the time. and I lifted a couple pipettes. They're little plastic straws.
Okay.
So I wanted to glue those. This was before heat sealing and other adhesive means, but I was going to glue them every 3 feet on the streamer. So I was either too much of in a hurry, or I was cheap. I was running out of glue. I only glued it in 3 spots. I didn't put the glue along the whole. If I had a barrel of glue and I had plenty of time, I would have never done that.
Mm.
So that was the first streamer, and it was white. So I took it to my friend. I took my friend in my first boat around the corner. I had my other friend getting a cliff he hiked up the cliff with a camera. So that was the first before and after picture. And it was white. And I had to colorize it to show the military that it could be orange. Actually, the first one I made, I colorized pink. And I showed it to the Navy guy, and he goes, good idea. You got to lose the pink. They didn't like pink in the Navy. So the second one, I called all around the country getting samples of orange film. So I kept trying to make one. They never worked like the first one. And I'm like, shit, again, because I kept notes, you either keep notes or you keep your first version of something, right? So in that case, I luckily kept that first one, the white one I made that I glued in a hurry. It turned out that the 2nd through 12th one, which all didn't work that well at all, I glued the whole strut. And when you glue the whole strut, the water pushes the whole thing down under the water. By only gluing it in 3 places, the water goes through the spreader bar and under it. So it keeps it afloat and spread, but it doesn't push it down. A total accident. But because I took notes and kept it, I figured it out. And again, and that was such a frustrating period for me because it worked. And even I took it on my friends. We had a little party on the boat. I'm going, I got my new inventions. I'm going to show it to you guys tonight. And they're like, oh yeah, get a job, get a same as my wife. So I put it out the back of the boat, and it's all curled up and twisted up. But as the boat drifts, it spun its way out and it got flat and perfect. And I'm like, oh my God, it works.
Oh,
and that was so exciting. But then for like a month or two, I could never build another one because I was gluing them wrong. So we don't use glue anymore, but the point is, I do use that separation. There is that groove. If you look at any streamer, you look at that. Anyway, too much information, but it is what it is, and so the advice is just to, take the notes, keep your old versions of stuff, and dedicate the time. And mistakes can be good. You learn from mistakes. That's the big buzz phrase now is how great failure is. Oh, great. Well, not if you're failing at the time, but you got to kind of, you lick your chops, you get up and you live to fight another day. I'm old enough where I've had a lot of disappointment, and a lot of great stuff, a lot of shitty stuff too. So, this day will pass, I had some heavy shit with my wife getting sick and paralyzed. Within a year, she's training for a marathon. Then she's in a cane walker wheelchair. And then for 19 years, she's in a wheelchair before she passes away, while I got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So that was just hell. But, it gets so bad you laugh at it, but that you just kind of keep adapting. Humans can adapt, keep pushing through it. And I also kind of, as an inventor, I kept trying to invent better ways to survive the situation. And in fact, she had this idea. They had this pedaling device that you buy. I don't even know why the Japanese made it, to pedal under your chair at work. It's to exercise while you're at your desk. But it has a motor, so it pedals for you. It's like, how much work is that? Are you really doing? So I took that. She showed me that. I took it and I put her in a camping chair, and I put Crocs on her feet, and I shoved them into the pedals, and then tied her knees to the camping chair like stirrups, like for gynecological exams.
Right.
So, it didn't look, but her legs were tied, and then turned it on, and it went like this with her feet. So she burnt out like 12 of those motors in like 10 years. I did the math. She cycled around the globe 3 times.
Oh my God.
Because she burned out, because all day she would just watch TV or books on tape when I would work, and either I was helping her or help her, but it made her legs not atrophy and get stiffed up, and kept them with some sort of muscle tone. And most importantly was psychologically, she wasn't paralyzed. She kind of could see her legs were moving. So that was just one way I tried to adapt to this shitty situation we're in. It's like, it can always get darker, believe me. And one of the things I used to love to do is if I get down about something, I just go try to watch a really depressing movie. And I come out of that, like a war movie where everyone gets killed. I'm like, shit, at least I'm not that, right? I mean, everything's relative. Yeah. So I used to say, oh, shit, well, my wife's still here. The kids still have a mother. I'm not homeless. I mean, I'm almost home. We're struggling financially, but, that everything's relative. So I know that's kind of weird, but when you're in a shitty space, go look for someone in a shittier space.
Damn straight.
I mean, it's kind of the corollary to Mr. Rogers saying when shit's happening like these fires, they tell little kids, he used to say, yes, like this is horrible, but look how many people are running to help. And that is beautiful. That's another good way to reframe a situation. So, you just keep doing stuff like that. And soon enough, you're like, you've survived a lot of stuff. So it makes you stronger. And another corny phrase, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. But
hey, it's a phrase for a reason.
Exactly. It's not out of thin air. So I think that you got to just get stuck in. And the other real bottom line is to try to do something you enjoy.
Yeah.
And for the shit I put in for the 30, 40 years in the streamer, I love this stuff. I love I'm passionate about survival. I'm passionate about inventing. I'm passionate about sharing my knowledge. I'm passionate about interacting with other people that are in this game. It's not even a game, in this world. So it helps me. And again, the day job, ideally your job should be something you're passionate about. But if not, so what? I don't know. You know who Charles Bukowski is?
Nope.
Really?
No.
Crazy writer. All these people. You read some. Oh, you ever see the movie Barfly? Anyway, it was based on his life. Bukowski's a famous writer, poet, crazy alcoholic maniac.
I like this guy.
You got to read Charles Bukowski. He's the man. Post Office is one of his books, and it talks about. I mean, like. All these people love him. He's got a whole underground following. He's in LA, and he just wanted to be a writer. So he forced himself to write all day. He was like an alcoholic, cigarette smoking degenerate, and lived in the projects, typing. He was a nasty guy. But he wrote more than anyone. He's like one of the most published authors there is because all he did was write. But you know what he didn't do? He did not work. He worked at the post office for like all these years. Yeah. So he would always have a job to get enough money to get the liquor to sit and get drunk and write. So I'm not saying I'm not saying this is an example, but the drinking part is not a good one necessarily. But the point is he was smart enough to not quit his day job and to get a day job. And then at some point in his life, it switched over and his writing made enough money where he could quit his day job.
Right.
So he's like the ultimate example of that. But I mean, he's a sketchy guy. You tell people, and don't tell like a woman on the first date you're really into Charles Bukowski. I mean, I think he was not a chauvinist pig, but a lot of women think he was. But he was it's just the way. I think he actually really loved women. He was just very awkward. He was kind of funny looking, and so he's not the most forward thinking guy. But there are a lot of women that like his stuff, and it's great, and it's also the times. But his stuff's incredible, and I love his stuff, and it's just brilliant stuff. And sometimes it comes out of people, and you don't know why. I mean, I'm a big Bob Dylan guy. That guy was a freak. He was a little kid with all this shit spewing out like Mozart. And they interview him, and they said, "Can you write about this stuff now?" And he goes, "No way." He was just like channeling, and I don't believe in any of that shit, but somehow he was the same thing. And Bukowski, this degenerate drunk guy, just channeled some incredible words. But they did what they wanted, right? Dylan wanted to write songs and play songs. Bukowski wanted to write. I don't think Dylan had to quit his day job because he was a kid and got money, but he was a scrounger in New York in the early days. He didn't have money. And So if you could find that, and again, if you could find it to match your job and your passion, you've got the home run.
Right.
But most people can't. So you get your day job, whatever it is, you go work at the factory, whatever that's the black box for any job. But just look at the rest of your day and weekend, like, look at all this time that I have to do anything. And it doesn't even have to be profitable. That's the other thing, is take the pressure off having to make your creations profitable, because it's a long shot, right?
Right.
If they're profitable to you psychologically, that's worth it alone, right?
Yeah.
If you like to draw and you draw a picture that you like, that is profitable. You've just profited on your own mind, which is the most important thing.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I think that's too many people, and it's part of the Shark Tank. The whole phenomenon is millionaire or nothing, right? It's like, no. And you know, that's also why I keep doing this, the work I'm doing. The streamer thing never blew up, but guess what? It never went away either. So I kind of eke out a living for all these years, and with no end in sight. To me, that's perfect. And that's how I was brought up. My father had he's one of the early guys in mail order business. And I'm like, look at this guy. He was the first guy that had his office phone ring in our house simultaneously with his office 5 miles away. And he even had to go in the office. And he had a phone in the bathroom too. So we had 2 phones in the bathroom.
It's grinding.
Yeah, he was just, and he would wear underwear all day. And I would come, Dad, put some pants on. My friends are here. And I wrote a book called Hardcore Inventing, and the working title was going to be Inventing in Your Underwear, as like an homage to my father. So, I mean, so he was our hero, the guy, and he could hang with us kids when he wanted to. He could take us fishing or eat dinner with us. He'd go to his office. He did ultimately have an office when his business grew enough out of the house, but to be flexible was huge. And even in our house, this is in our house, it had a little sign up that said, just say no to day jobs. No, just say no to real jobs. That was our like standard bearer in the house. So if you took a job like for a company, we said, "Oh, sorry about that." Because the goal was to be an entrepreneur and self-employed. That was it, and to do something you enjoy. And to me, I tried to take it to the next level. I do all that, and it actually helps save lives, and it has a good meaning. Right. So, and that's, I think it's been really rewarding to me, and it helped with my wife's situation. If I wasn't flexible, if I wasn't able to make money through licensing, royalties, and other inventions, I could have never done it. We would have never survived, and my kids would have been really tweaked. Now they're just nicely tweaked. Now they're good kids. They're not kids. They're your guys' age. It's all good though. You got to just find your passion and go with it. And again, don't put pressure on it to make money. Yeah, forget it, man. Just be a creative people. Just create. Everyone can create something. And that's the other thing that I hate about the smartphones is you're not doing anything. You're a follower. Right. I want to be a leader or a creator. Even if I'm a shitty leader or creator, at least I'm leading and creating. Right? If you're just following. You're just following. I want to be a leader, following, and it's good to learn from others. Again, basically, what level of people you're following. Right. And again, I follow all walks of life. I want to know everything, but I think you have to look at that and say, create something. So I tell the kids all the time whenever they let me talk. I'm a little edgy for these colleges now, but turn that phone off. And do something, create something, do anything, even physically. Just go take a walk, a swim, a run. Yeah. Paint, build something, take pictures, anything. Do something that isn't related to watching. Watching is bad. In fact, in my neighborhood where we used to play sports, everyone had nicknames. We were brutal to each other. And this one kid, we'd always go ring his doorbell and ask his mom if he could play, and he goes, "Nah, Kevin's watching TV." The hell? Guess what his name became? TV Kevy. You can't see. We knew even back then. This is 60 years ago, 50 years ago. If you watch TV all the time, if you're watching a screen all the time, you're lame, man. You need to come. That's how it was. you shouldn't be watching TV. Even like, and I know this may hurt some of the golf people, but when I was a little kid, I started playing golf. I really got into it. I was like a teenager. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I mean, it was cool. I'm doing something, but it's like an 80-year-old guy's sport. I'm not playing this when I'm a kid.
I'm with that.
So,
fuck golf.
No, I mean, it's cool. Everyone I know plays golf. I'm an old guy. And the good thing is I can play a little now. But the last time I played, I was like 14. I'm like, this is not, it was a good idea. Get out in nature, play a sport, but it was the wrong thing. So, you have to, but you should do what's comfortable. If you like golf, you should play golf, and if you're good at it, you should play more, maybe, as long as it doesn't frustrate you and you're breaking clubs.
A lot of people out there that are, they smash that shit.
No, it is bad. It can be really unbelievable. So it's just it's a long journey, and I think you guys, your generation you got everything at your fingertips, but it's also a crutch. You got these crutches at your fingertips. So how do you use it? And that comes back to self-discipline. Yeah. And so few people are disciplined. Yeah. I'm one of the fortunate ones. That's one of my best talents. Just like, I'm in college, everyone's raging and partying. I'm like, I can't be there till late. I'm going to the library. I didn't even tell them I would say I'm going to study. I'm going to get my work done so I can party with you guys. So I was disciplined. And even Hawaii, this place is beautiful. There's a million distractions. How did I have enough time and discipline to do the work I had to do? It's because I parsed out my time well and took breaks when I could. And I'm telling my son, he's got the new baby. I'm like, he's like used to surfing in the middle of the day or paddling. I'm like, man, those days are over. Your wife, I have an overall rule for couples, which is you can't have more fun than your couple, but then your partner. Once you think about even work relationships too. If one guy's doing all the work, the other guy's having all the fun, it's going to be a problem. So I'm telling my son, he's got this baby, and if you're surfing in the middle of the day and the wife is taking care of the baby, I go, no, man, you got to do what I did, which is grab the 5 a.m. till 8 a.m. time slot. Get up early when everyone's sleeping. You go out surfing or paddling. You get yours, then you come home. You're a hero. Everyone's just groggy, waking up, and you got yours. So it's a good lesson in all of life. I think you have to. So you take whatever window you can get, and as you get on in age, the windows might get smaller because of work, family, what have you. But and luckily for surfers, the window for us, it's always worth it. If I have to go in the dark, it's better than not going at all, Yeah,
right.
So, right. So it's back to the passion again. And I'm fortunate. I got a work passion and a recreational passion. So that makes me good at both because I can take breaks from both.
Speaking about passions, you talk about how survival is one of your passions. And I just wonder where that came from.
I think that when I met those kids, the kids that came to the neighborhood and played football, and they started taking us free diving in Miami. We got a little 12-foot aluminum boat, and we would go out and anchor the boat, and we'd all swim away from the boat with these Hawaiian slings, these like spears, and we'd get fish and lobster and put them in our pants, and then sell them to the tourists. That was like our side job.
Hell yeah.
The main job was setting up the pads at the pool deck for the tourists, the towel and all that. But then we'd have a break. We could go free dive, and it's like mind over matter. You're out in the ocean, and I started swimming really far, like a mile away from the boat and everyone, and you just start realizing that you're on your own. That situation and all situations. So you have to develop the ability to be comfortable being on your own. And that's where I always start thinking about survival. Like, okay, if this happens, what do I do? Then I started reading all these books by guys that were in that situation. And even there's a famous book called Unbroken, the guy that got shot down in World War II. Louis Zamperini. He became my buddy. He lived in a raft for 47 days, and he talked about how he survived. And one of the main things, he was 2 other guys, is there's the physical component of not having food or water, and they luckily had a lot of rain. But then there's the mental component. And one of the ways he survived was he was an Italian guy, and he would cook this 7-course meal in his mind for him and his buddies. He would describe it. So they fantasized big ziti and fresh bread, and they could smell it. And he did that every night. So I just started reading this stuff on how these guys survive, and I'm just fascinated by how far the human body can be pushed,
right,
and how ingenious the human body and mind can be to develop whatever you have at hand. And one of the things I like to do is flash invent. So I'll go like with a problem, and I'll go to Home Depot and like wander around and go, okay, I got an hour to solve this problem. I can get a piece of that, cut that off, put it on that, and just kind of Frankenstein shit together. And that is real, because like if you're in a raft, you don't have a Home Depot. You'd kill to have that. Then you could really easily do it. And that's where even the military, the training and the survival training, the classical training is, you know what the number one tool is in a survival situation? Your brain.
That's
so
right.
When you're in the heavy shit, and even in life, if you are encountering something hard in your life, don't rush into it. Take a step back and kind of try to reflect on it and use your brain to kind of analyze all the different scenarios and all the different things you can do so you can kind of deal with it.
Right.
So that's kind of got me to survival. And then big waves are scary. In rough water, I fish and it's scary. So it's like, I don't want to die doing that. So when I fish 20 miles out, I made a very simple thing, which is I tie myself into the boat with a big old rope that only lets me reach just to the back to gaff a fish. So because when you troll, which is just using lures, no bait,
right,
you never stop the boat. You slow down to catch a fish, but you never stop. So when you're going to gaff a fish, you fall in, the boat's going to keep going. That would be a horrible way to die, to see your boat leaving you.
Oh, yeah.
Because I fished alone a lot. So by tying myself to the boat, I took that off the table. There's no way I'm falling out because I'm tied to it. So it's that kind of stuff. And even like 10, 12 years ago on the North Shore, in the peak of what I was charging the biggest, I'm still like 20, 25 foot faces. But back then I was maybe 30, 35 foot faces. And I got out on a huge day and I was talking to a guy and I thought he was out far enough. It turns out he wasn't. He was like shoulder hopping. He wasn't out to where the big waves were. And a 20 wave, 30 foot face set came in and just drilled me. Oh. And I had a 20-foot leash and a 12-foot long board with a pointy board. And I took 20 foot, 30 foot waves on my head in a row. So I only had enough energy to dive down 10 feet, then come up, get a breath of air, and then do it again. I did it 20 times. I lived barely. I got to the beach. I was so close to dying that I was tired for a whole week. Can you believe that? That's not good. That's not in our manual. That's not supposed to happen. But I analyzed, I'm like, okay, I see what happened. So now, for the last 12 years, I have a lay down paddleboard. So if I'm not surfing, I paddle for an hour for lunch. I paddle the board out a mile. I tie a 20-foot string to it, and I recreate those 20 dives in a row. And I do it 50 times now. I do 50 one-breath 10-foot free dives in a row. So my breath and my comfort level of being underwater when the water goes over you, I'm not saying I'm totally comfortable, but I'm a lot more comfortable. And sometimes I'll just laugh. I'm like, okay, I know what's happening now. I just got to free dive 20 times and I'll be alive.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it also saved me because these guys have a parasail boat out here. And it's, you know, when you're underwater, you can hear things. And I was doing my free diving. And Louis, the guy that was lost for 47 days, he reminded me, he goes, never tie yourself to a boat. And I go, I know. I mean, I do in fishing because I don't want to go out.
Right.
But he goes, when you're in the water, you should never tie yourself. When he was in the water with the raft, he almost got in trouble because the Japanese started shooting at him on day 20 and he was able to go down. And I never forgot that story. And he goes, I know how far bullets go underwater. I'm like, oh, really, Lou? He goes, yeah, they go like 6 feet, then they go like that. I'm like, oh, God. So that parasail boat's coming right at me. And at one point, they don't see me because I can't see them. Right at me. Didn't see me at all. So I just let go. And the rope I dive with, I only have it in my hand. I don't wrap it around my hand. I just have it in my hand. As soon as I saw that, I did my free dive, not just 10 feet. I went like 20 feet. And that boat went right over my head and took my paddleboard like an eighth of a mile, ripped the fin off it. And they didn't even know they ran me over. And I was fine. But then they realized that they brought the board back. This guy apologized, and I paddled in with no fin. And again, I'm not going to blame the stars. I'm going to learn from it. So the mistake I made, and I took ownership of it, was the board's white, and I paddle in rough water here. It looks like a white cap. From then on, the bottom of my boards I paint orange, which of course the streamer guy, I should have done that anyway.
There you go,
idiot. It would have been a horrible headlines. Survival streamer inventor dies not being seen. I could stage my death and maybe get sales up that way.
Ooh, smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do that. Anyway, it's a crazy world I live in. But
speaking of that, what is the day-to-day life of your life now?
Well, yeah, I mean, now that the kids are grown up and I'm fully, I've always been self-employed, but I used to have a licensee where I had commitments to that group. Now I can run the show myself. I basically get up early, and earn my fuel. I do little workouts. I pull an 80-pound boogie board of weights backwards in the backyard for my legs. Really good backwards. Because my legs are skinny. I'm all upper body, and as you get older, you need your legs to be solid. And my legs were getting skinnier a couple of years ago. And my son's like, "You got to pull a sled backwards." And I'm like, "I'm not buying a sled. I'll make one." So I went to Costco and bought a boogie board. I had an old rope, and then I went to Ross and bought these girly weights that are like, they're not girl, they're for men too, but they're like plastic coated little barbells. Yeah. I bought a couple of those, and I took this T-Rex tape I use, which is like Gorilla tape, but even stronger. And my daughter helped me. I taped this 80 pounds to my board, and I just made a sled. And every morning I walk a couple times around the backyard, and my legs are so much stronger, so much more solid. And as you get older, you don't want to fall. So anyway, I do that. I do some push-ups. Then I eat crazy food. I basically eat two types of gruel. My breakfast gruel is like protein shake, and also I eat like a little quarter bowl of Cheerios with hemp seed, chia seed, cinnamon, blueberries, and wheat bran. I'm into colon blow. I'm into high fiber shit. I want shit going right by me.
Oh, hell yeah.
So then I eat all that. Then I go up and, first I check my email. After that, then I do a couple more. I do a little stationary bike. I do everything short because I don't have time. So my workout, that sled takes 5 or 7 minutes. I set the bike on the highest setting. So that takes 5 minutes because it's like climbing a hill. Do a couple curls, a couple squats, push-ups. Then I'm working, usually on the computer or physically building. In fact, that's part of my lab here, some of that stuff in the back. And then at lunchtime, first I have to play catch with my crazy dog. I got this Rottweiler, and he's a maniac, and I'm a shitty trainer, so he's just a real maniac. But I'm a good dog owner. I'm not a good dog trainer. So I taught him how to catch a ball with 100-foot leash. He looks like a lab. He's so skinny, but he's really scary looking. But he can run 100 feet, 100 yards, not 100 feet, and jump like 6 feet in the air and catch the ball. Yeah, I fling the little, one of those ball flingers.
Yeah.
So I do that, bring him in, and then I go paddle. I take my lunch break. If I surf, I compress that whole thing. And after my morning workout and food, I go surf, and then I come back for lunch. But if I don't surf, I take a lunch break, and that's where I get my good thinking done. I mean, I know it sounds like a cop-out, but it's not. Then I come back and I make, you heard of crock pots, right? I make a six bean Indian curry. Ooh. It's always in the crock pot. I eat it every day. I'm like a dog. I eat the same thing every day.
As it should be. Hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 6-bean Indian curry, and I don't even eat it over brown rice. I eat it over hulless barley. I get from the health food store. You put barley in the rice cooker. It's way better for you. I have a quarter head of raw cabbage. Maui grows the best cabbage. It's like the best lettuce you've ever eaten, but it's healthy. And then steamed Japanese eggplant. And then my downfall is dark chocolate. And I eat it by the handful. Oh. And then I got a little ice cube tray made out of coconut oil.
Ooh.
Coconut oil. So I eat that. I eat a couple mouthfuls of chocolate, then throw that cube of coconut oil in. It's a poor man's Mounds bar. Yeah. It's unbelievable. It's like the greatest dessert. So those 2 meals I eat every day. Then I go back to work for the rest of the day until dinner. And then I do it all again with the dog. And I eat a smaller dinner, but dinner is my only optional meal. Breakfast and lunch are the same every day. So, I mean, again, back to discipline. And the thing is, it's not like I hate those 2 meals. I crave those 2 meals. I love that 6-bean Indian curry. I love that big old bowl of cereal. And the protein shake is like a chocolate shake. So, people, I'm at fighting weight. I'm at the same weight I've always been. In fact, I'm trying to gain weight because when you get old, you get too skinny. I'm trying to stay thick. So my day changes depending on, it's kind of like I check my emails and see what fires I have to put out, really. See. And then, now my son's been hitting me up for babysitting a baby, which is fun. I got a whole new young mind I can influence.
Next inventor on the way up.
Yeah, she's pretty, I try to, the young mind's awesome. I mean, it's so cool. I mean, when I had kids, we were in such a hurricane. I remember it, but it's like 35 years ago. My kids are 32 and 35. And now to see one that's 5 months old and just show her this for the first time. Like I take her under the coconut trees in my son's backyard and I just kind of flap them and show her. She loves the wind and the lighting. Then I run my fingers along the palm fronds and it makes a noise like a xylophone. So she's just freaking out. It's like, it's just brand new. Everything's brand new to her. So I could just turn her on to whatever I want. And, I'm going to be the crazy grandfather and that's okay. I'll take it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be cool. I mean, if my ex, her aunt had a baby, I remember I never really been around babies and I was just like, this is sick. Like this, like you said, like it's surreal seeing something, learn something for the first time.
It's so bizarre. I mean, it's such an incredible thing. And then you also see yourself in the baby, right?
Yeah.
And I, as a science guy, I'm always doing the math. Okay, my kids are half me, half my wife, and they're a quarter of each of the parent. It keeps going down. And now this baby is only a quarter of me and my wife, right? Or my late wife, because she's half. My kid is half his wife. No, half. He's half. She's half. So it's just I'm getting diluted. We all are, but you still see the characteristics.
Right.
So I see him in her. I see my wife in her. I see myself in her. I see his new wife. I see my daughter in. You see these different expressions. You see yourself in there, and it's amazing. And I always wonder, who gets the mix right? Is it just a straight luck of the draw? You throw a bunch of shit into the blender and see what happens and see which is stronger? It's fascinating to me. And I'm enjoying it, but it's a lot of work. I don't have the patience I used to. And ultimately, grandparenting is better because I can hand them back.
Yeah.
Here you go. Gotta go.
So with that being said, do you have any plans on the future, like as far as inventions that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean that desalinator. I really want to get that thing out because it's world changing, and I've got a new group that I know from my survival world, and I'm at the point in my life where I'm less paranoid and controlling about my inventions, in that I'm ready to share and team up. Before I was kind of like protective,
right?
And I figured I'd have a whole suite of inventions out of my company. But I see that the cost and time and money to get even one invention out is extremely hard and rare. It's so hard that I'm never going to get this other one out unless I get help. So I got these retired Air Force guys and this other guy that makes this, he's a heat sealing expert. He works with the ejection seat pilots on another technology. So I'm talking to him and I'm hoping that can lead to something. And I've been doing a lot of, well, historically, I've been writing a lot over the years. And what I just did, which is kind of fun, I got 4 regular books on Amazon, Hardcore Inventing. I wrote about caregiving as an inventor, Caregiver's Survival Guide. I wrote Hardcore Health about the food and exercise. And then I wrote Brainstorm Islands, children's book. So before all that, though, I wrote a bunch of stories. Like 20 years ago, I wrote all these crazy stories about the neighborhood and growing up and all those stories, kind of the stories I told you about. And instead of waiting to try to get them published, which is really hard, I should just screw it. I just put them out for free on Facebook and Instagram. So if anyone wants to read these crazy stories, they're up there under my name. And again, I'm getting to the point where, you know, I'm going to be old. I am old already by normal standards, but I'm going to be really old soon. I want to be 80 in 15 years. That's how I look at 65. I'm always looking. I round up by 10. So as soon as I'm 60, I'm almost 70. So when I'm 70, I'm almost 80. So I know it's scary. So most people don't want to hear that, but that way you're more comfortable when it comes. You're like, okay, well, I've been preparing for 70 now for 10 years. I'm here. It's not that painful. So, you know, the end ultimately, and then I see old guys, they start losing their edge. And, you know, even as a PhD student, the professors, they usually became professors from their 1 or 2 good ideas or papers. And then ultimately they kind of leverage their grad students for the young people for their new ideas. You know, they work together. So I don't want to get to that position where I've run out of ideas. So I always try to keep inventing, as stupid as they are, whatever challenges at hand. So like now this morning, or the other day, I was thinking about inventing. I thought, first of all, I see if it's already done or not. And my son has this killer little cottage on the beach. It's really nice, but it's only a cottage, but there's a beach. And then there's like a highway on the front. I'm like, your kid's going to get killed if they ride a bike out front, but there's like a little bit of a beach. How's she going to learn to ride a bike without coming to my house? So I'm thinking of a fat, tired kid tricycle. So you could ride on the beach.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right? You know those fat tires? Yeah. My main hoop is if I invent something I want first, do I want one of those? Would I buy one? Yes, is the answer. So that means it made my first cut. So I want to just keep, and I think I'll keep experiencing challenges with a grandkid. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to be sensitive to not overstepping. Let my kid and his wife make their own mistakes, you know, and they're not going to blame it on me if she turns out all whacked. So they have to do their own thing. So I'm not trying to micromanage them, but, you know, I throw them an idea or a suggestion, and that's all it is. And so I think you just kind of, you know what they say, write what you know. I'm like, invent what you know, or invent what you encounter. Invent the problems you encounter. So, and that's, you know, I just try to stay in that space, and I think that'll be useful. And again, nothing may come of it. I mean, my big invention has probably already. The streamer is going to be the one. I may not make another good one,
right?
But that's okay. That doesn't mean I'm not going to stop trying, right? It's just a mindset.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to stay in that space.
That's good. So where do you see Sea Rescue in the next 10, 20 years?
Well, I think I saw my dad start his business in his bedroom while we were little kids, and he ran it for 60, 70 years till he was like 90. So I think ultimately when I'm like in my 90s, or I like to live to 100 in a perfect world, I'll either let it die or pass it off. Maybe my kids, or maybe this new granddaughter. You know, my kids have their own thing going. Maybe I'll summon one of my kids or offer it to, you know, it's a pretty good gig, you know, they're not that hard to make, and there's a built-in market for them, and they're kind of the legacy. So I would love to pass it on. I think my kids are moderately to not interested in, but they might be in 10, 20 years when they're not making enough money, and they probably have their own ideas on how to make more money out of this. When there's the new Twitter and TikTok where the chip's implanted in your head and all you have to do is think about survival, and the Amazon package immediately gets to you. You didn't have to order it. Whatever the future holds.
Yeah.
So that would be nice, but I don't think even if I let it die, someone will pick it up because it's too good of an idea.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, if I'm dead, I'm definitely going to be okay with it because I won't know. But even if someone else takes it on, that's cool too. I mean, I'll give my kids first right of refusal, and then maybe I'll give a friend's second right of refusal. And third right of refusal will be what Volvo did and say, shit, take the seatbelts and make them.
Yeah.
Make them to save the lives. And that'll be my legacy.
Yeah. Saving lives even.
Try not to think about it.
Yeah.
Right. And my father used to say, he's going, it's not when I die, it's if I die.
Right.
Which was really funny. We used to joke and we thought he'd never die. The guy was a hard ass. He got shot by the Nazis and he lived through that. He lived through the Depression. He was a hard ass, and he was tough. And I didn't think he would die, but he died after my mom died because I think he could, like true love. Within a couple months, he couldn't.
Yeah.
They were like symbiotic. So it was beautiful. I mean, it was poetic. And then he was 95. I mean,
yeah.
I talk about 100, but 100 might be really ugly. So it might be time to rest for good.
Well, Dr. Rob, I think this is a good time to call it. Do you have anything else you'd like to end off with?
I think we covered everything, but thank you for the time. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys' show and just the way you're willing to explore new things, man, and keep it up. Keep it going to the next generation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. My pleasure.
Right.
And let me know when it's on. I'd love to
it'll be on this Friday at 5 a.m. CST.
Okay, well, send me a link, and I'd like to see what you people think about it.
Yeah. We appreciate you coming on, Dr. Rob, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, man.
Goodbye.
Thanks a lot. My pleasure. See ya. Aloha.
Aloha. Am I allowed to say that? What a way to end it.
Well, guys, that was Dr. Rob Yonover. We hope that you enjoyed that. It was a little bit of a different episode. We're not quite sure how this is gonna go, but
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that kind of stuff because we are going to keep doing it.
Whether you like it or not, it's gonna keep happening. So
we have a lot of great guests coming up. I don't know if they can top a super genius doctor fucking inventor. Yeah, but this is been crazy, guys. So we hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you all next week.
Hell yeah. Goodbye.